Hey everybody, welcome back to another live video here on the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola, and I want to give you a little bit of an update to what we started talking about yesterday in the live video before yesterday's episode of the Damage Report, which is excerpts coming up from A Very Stable Genius, Donald J. Trump's Testing of America upcoming book coming out on the 21st of this month, which, like all of these big insider books, reveals quite a bit about what was going on in the Trump White House. But in particular, they've got some information about this episode from fairly early on, like a year into his presidency, that is just amazing that I want to dive into because it's interesting because everything I'm going to show here, I bet Donald Trump supporters are going to like, even though it is going to reveal Donald Trump to be ignorant and emotional and impossible to work with, all of that. And no, we cannot get a day off for me to recover. I do think that I am slowly recovering. I think my voice is a little bit better, but we'll see. I am still coughing a lot. I sound less like Darth Plagueis. I hope so. Okay, so let's dive into the one particular incident. So, yeah, Donald Trump, he becomes the president. He surrounds himself with all these people that he's chosen and everything. He's got Mattis, he's got Tillerson, and all of that. And they are apparently, over the first 6 months or so, getting increasingly frustrated with Donald Trump for not knowing anything about history. He doesn't know anything about our allies. He'd been going around and cozying up to dictators, those sorts of things. And they decided, okay, we want to help this guy, so we have to have an intervention. So they brought him into this room in the Pentagon, 2E924, the tank, which is supposed to be this really important sort of sacred room where important work is done with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So they bring him in there, and what they've done is they're going to give him a lesson, and they're going to try, to the best ability that they have, to teach him about what is going on around the world, how America functions, all of that. So here's what they say. Mattis, Cohn, and Tillerson and their aides decided to use maps, graphics, and charts to tutor the president, figuring they would help keep him from getting bored. Mattis opened with a slideshow punctuated by lots of dollar signs. Mattis devised a strategy to use terms the impatient president, schooled in real estate, would appreciate to impress upon him the value of U.S. investments abroad. He sought to explain why U.S. troops were deployed in so many regions and why America's safety hinged on a complex web of trade deals, alliances, and bases across the globe. An opening line flashed on the screen, setting the tone. Quote, "The post-war international rules-based order is the greatest gift of the greatest generation." Mattis then gave a 20-minute briefing on the power of the NATO alliance to stabilize Europe and keep the U.S. safe. Bannon, who was there, thought to himself, not good. Trump is not going to like that one bit. Bannon thought, oh baby, this is going to be fucking wild. If you stood up and threatened to shoot Trump, he couldn't say post-war rules-based international order. It's just not the way he thinks. That's his ally. That's his friend, Bannon, at that point, saying that if you on pain of death, he couldn't say this phrase. So apparently, this went on for about 90 minutes, and they talked about a lot. They talked about CIA stations, our network of military bases, our embassies, all of that. And they say Trump appeared peeved by the schoolhouse vibe, but also allergic to that dynamic of his advisors talking at him. His ricocheting attention span led him to repeatedly interrupt the lesson. He heard an advisor say a word or phrase, and then seized on that to interject with his take. For instance, the word base prompted him to launch in to say how crazy and stupid it was to pay for bases in some countries. Which, look, I would definitely make a case that there is no justification for the vast majority of our bases abroad. But he's not saying we shouldn't have them. He's saying we should be involved in the internal workings of dozens and dozens of countries, but we should pay rent for it. He literally said we should charge them rent. We should make them pay for our soldiers. We should make money off of everything. And then he starts to, I guess he has to end the lesson in some fashion. So he starts attacking them, yelling, "We are owed money you haven't been collecting. You would totally go bankrupt if you had to own your own business. Trust me, I know. I've gone bankrupt more than all of you combined." He didn't say that last part, but he did say the other part. Anyway, so there is more of this. Please hit the like button if you've been watching the live video so far so that more people can know about it. You say, dude, let your hair grow. Yeah, I just can't do that, especially when I'm sick. I get too uncomfortable. So at some point, they start talking about some of the particular deals that we were involved in, and those people who are, like, I disagree with them and Trump, but they are trying to help him to be an effective president. So they bring up the Iran nuclear deal, which was a bad call because he doesn't like that. and he's not interested in the facts. So he interrupts them to yell, "It's the worst deal in history." Tillerson starts to say, "Well, actually," and Trump says, "I don't want to hear it. They're cheating. They're building. We're getting out of it. I keep telling you. I keep giving you time, and you keep delaying me. I want out of it." And so this is a great example of. It is my headphone resistant haircut, by the way. So this is a great example of what I was saying at the intro, that I don't doubt that every single red hat hair wearer is going to love that, because they're as ignorant about the Iran deal as Trump is. So Tillerson isn't like a fan of Iran or anything. He's certainly not a fan of Barack Obama, but he acknowledges that the deal is doing what it's supposed to do. There's no evidence that they're cheating on the deal. There's no evidence that they're building nuclear weapons or enriching uranium to a level that would be dangerous, anything like that. The Trump administration, as well as the military, confirmed that. But the thing is that Donald Trump is immune to facts. He's immune to learning. He cannot be taught. All of these people, they plan for weeks. Here is how we're going to try to impress upon him certain facts, and it just doesn't work. The same is, of course, true for much of his base. They think that the Iran deal is bad because they've heard on Fox News that it's bad. And it doesn't matter how many times Trump's own government confirms that it's working. They're not interested in what is true. They're interested in feeling good. So, yeah, he ends that meeting, apparently, by yelling at them, "You're all losers. You don't know how to win anymore." These are his friends and allies. And he's just yelling, "You're all losers. You know how to win. Get this book out of my way. I'm not filling out a composition notebook." Anyway, so then they start talking about Afghanistan. And that was a good topic. So he yells, "I want to win. We don't win any wars anymore. We spend $7 trillion. Everybody else got the oil, and we're not winning anymore." It's Afghanistan. It's not even like a major oil producer. And who's getting the oil? There's chaos there. That's true. There's like the opium crop started to crop up again. That's a bad like economic development, but not that everyone else is getting the oil. It is issue again. It isn't this is a quagmire where our soldiers are dying, civilians are dying, and it doesn't seem to be actually improving things for the people there. That's not what he's saying. He's not saying we have no business being involved in this country's affairs at this late date. Thank you, Stephanie. He's not saying that. There's so many reasonable reasons to be frustrated with the conflict in Afghanistan at that time and want to make a change. He doesn't have any of those positions. He wants to be just as involved in this quagmire. He just wants to feel that we're winning or feel that we're profiting in some fashion. So they say at this point, there's other generals in the room. The U.S. commander in charge of troops in Afghanistan was there, in fact. And so after what I just said, they say Trump by now was in one of his rages. He was so angry that he wasn't taking many breaths, which is good because we've heard him breathe heavily, and that's not good for anybody. All morning he'd been coarse and cavalier, but the next several things he bellowed went beyond that description. They stunned nearly everyone in the room, and some vowed that they would never repeat them. Now, I will say, having read what he yelled, I don't think it's unrepeatable, but he yells at all of his top generals, "I wouldn't go to war with you people." Addressing the room, the commander-in-chief barked, "You're a bunch of dopes and babies." Those are all of his top generals. And here's the thing. Like, I don't think we should be involved in virtually any of these conflicts. But that fundamentally is not a military problem. That is a political problem. We have tasked the military with missions that we should not be involved in. Or, even if you could pin it on them, then replace them. He just calls them dopes and babies, and then for the most part, continues on with those people. And so to some extent I get a little bit of what they're saying of why they wouldn't repeat it, because imagine like being like a top, like Russian or Iranian government official and hearing that Trump wouldn't go to war with his commanders and thinks they're dopes and babies, but is still going to maintain that same power structure. They apparently, they give a whole bunch of range of reactions from the people in the room. You can look that up if you want. They go through like Tillerson, why he won't say anything. Pence won't do anything. He's described as being a wax museum guy because he won't stand up to Donald Trump. They say he's a total deer in the headlights. And then one conflict that they get into is that, again, Trump fundamentally just wants to make money off of this entire thing. So he keeps saying that we have to make a profit. So Tillerson, at some point, he finally works himself up to a response and says, "The men and women who put on a uniform don't do it to become soldiers of fortune. That's not why they put on a uniform and go out and die. They do it to protect our freedom." And then there was apparently silence. And that is apparently the moment that Tillerson was referring to when he famously said he's a fucking moron about Donald Trump. So it was his stance in basically turning our military into soldiers of fortune, a mercenary force to be sold abroad. And the thing is that later Trump would he would can Tillerson as a result of that. They go back and forth over and over about the being paid or whatever. So he got credit afterward. People at the meeting apparently sent Tillerson messages saying, thank you for standing up for our soldiers and stuff like that. Trump was not as impressed. In March 2018, he fired Tillerson while he was halfway around the globe. And here's the thing. So it is really weenie behavior to fire a guy when he's literally as far as he can be from you physically on the globe, because we know Donald Trump can't, outside of a TV context, he can't fire someone to their face. He just doesn't have it in him. It's the least alpha behavior ever, but they're going to keep calling him an alpha. But here's the funny thing. Do you know why he was halfway around the globe? What he was doing? He was on a diplomatic mission to Africa to ease tensions after Trump called them shithole countries. So Trump's racist, xenophobic rhetoric inspired an international crisis that Tillerson was going and trying to help him out on, and while he's away, he takes that opportunity to fire him. Trump apparently tried to pretend that he wasn't mad at Tillerson after that, and even invited him to come take a photo after he fired him, and Tillerson did not go to that. So anyway, in the end, what's funny is all these people that tried so hard to educate Donald Trump, they all got fired for their loyalty. They were just trying to help Trump be effective. And I know that Trump's base and even Trump himself, they have no reason to learn, because Fox, Lou Dobbs is going to say that he's the greatest president ever no matter what happens. But as someone who has no interest in Donald Trump's agenda, I can at least describe what he could have done that would have been more effective in making the case to his base, to confirming to Republican senators that it's good to have him in office. All of these things that would personally benefit him, he is so emotional and wild and short-sighted that he can't even see what would be in his own best interest. And so some of these Republicans who he now would declare as being part of the swamp or whatever, sure, they're part of the swamp, but they were trying to help him. They were trying to put him in a position where he would have a good chance of getting reelected. It would be so easy if he wasn't surrounding himself with toadies and morons. Any one of us, as much as we hate him, we could sketch out an electoral strategy that would be unbeatable for him. But he can't do that because he continually undercuts himself and surrounds himself with the stupidest, least ethical people in the world. It's the reason he ended up getting impeached. That didn't have to happen. Anyway, the book is coming out on the 21st. I don't expect it to happen, but I'm going to reach out to the authors because I think it would be fun to talk to them, find out what else is going on. I see Dustin, you said, what do you think about Bernie leading nationally? Obviously, I think it's good. I've been tweeting a bunch about it. Oh, geez, we only have 6 minutes. Okay, that went longer than I thought. So anyway, we got a video or a show coming up. Brett Ehrlich is going to join me. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got a couple fun segments planned, so definitely stick around in 5.5 minutes, and I'll see you then.